Are there any day 2 or day 3 quarterback prospects that intrigue you at all? And if so, who?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely Davis Mills. And I know people talk about, but this is why. This is why when I watch Davis Mills, I think the biggest issue with him, I mean, outside of maybe lack of experience, playing experience,
reps,
which might lead to this, but his decision making is kind of Jimmy G-ish, you know.
Right. He's had some picks, some 3-pick games. Yeah.
I think if you just watch him off of play action, you watch him play in rhythm, you watch the accuracy, the arm, like he's athletic enough for sure. When you just watch those things, I think he does all those things well. And it's like, dang, I could see some really good upside, right? Like we talk about Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is like a more polished version of Mills, but Mills is even more like, I think has better traits, high-end traits in the sense of arm strength, athletic ability, you know, but he just doesn't, he's not great with the decision making. I think that's his biggest issue right now. Just knowing, hey, I can't squeeze this in here because this guy's coming over here. Just those type of things. And
but that's a function of lack of reps and playing at Stanford. It's not like he was at Stanford 10 years ago. I mean, imagine if he had gone to Alabama and got to throw to those first-round picks.
Right. So, you know, there's that too. So, but it's in the sense of if there's a guy where I feel like, hey, I want to draft and really develop this guy and I could still have a high-end payoff, I think it would be him. So if we were to take somebody like Pitts at 3 and I got Davis Mills, I definitely got to go with Jimmy G all year. But I strongly believe with him more so than ever, and it only took a couple games of watching him and kind of understanding what some of his issues were. It's not an ability thing. It's just like a rep thing. That's what it looked like to me. So, and when you hear his head coach say, hey, if he were to stay in college another year and come out next year, I think he'd be the number 1 overall pick. Like that's what he was thinking. He'd be a top guy. So it is more so of, hey, this guy just needs a little bit of reps and a little bit of fine tuning if he can get that. And I think the things that he's doing, playing under center, turning his back, you know, the play action, turning his back to a defense, getting back around, being accurate with his passes, like, man, he's like tailor-made for what we've seen from Kyle in the last couple of years with the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people don't realize about Davis Mills if they haven't watched him is he's physically gifted. He was the number 1 quarterback prospect coming out of high school. He could have gone wherever he wanted. He got an offer to go to Stanford. Usually that's the smart thing to do. It worked for Andrew Luck. It's a great school, but that program isn't what it used to be. There's a reason why he left right now. I mean, it's not helping him to be there.
Right.
So if he had gone to anywhere else, he might be a big time prospect, but he didn't. And so you can get him later on in the draft. And the way I look at him is he's just as physically gifted as Rosen, if not more. I mean, he can run
more.
Yeah,
I think he's bigger. Rosen was a little frail, and I don't think his arm was as big as though he did have a good arm coming out. He definitely wasn't able to make plays with his legs. Where Davis Mills, you see him, he really gives you everything. It's just the lack of experience and sometimes the boneheaded decisions. Outside of that, like when you just watch him, especially playing rhythm and watch him get the ball out of his hands, everything looks really good. It looks really good. Just needs a little bit more reps.
Let me ask you real quick before we move on. My 2 sleeper quarterback prospects are Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask. Do you see either one going in round 1 or do you like either one?
So if I've watched a good deal of both of them, not from an evaluation standpoint, but just kind of watching them, like watching their games and everything. And I know just my initial takeaways from both guys with Kyle Trask, a lot of it was like, damn, I think he has the best ball placement out of anybody in this class. I thought his ball placement was terrific. I think what he lacks for the most part, and at least what it looks like, is he doesn't have much velocity on his throws. And I know they said that about Deshaun Watson, but this looks different, like where everything kind of floats. And I'm like, well, he's going to get into some trouble trying to throw passes like that in the NFL and not have Pitts to bail you out. So then you watch him in the bowl game and he threw the first pass. It was a deep out. And I was like, God, that took forever to get there.
Yeah.
And then the very next play, it was the same thing. Threw a deep out, boom, pick 6. And it's just like, well, that's bound to happen because he doesn't throw. The balls don't jump out of his hands. They don't jump on his target. So I think in the NFL, he's physically gifted in the sense of his size, but I think that can hurt him. And then just his like ability to kind of move a little bit more. He's like less than ideal. You know, you can have, you know, obviously like you have some freaks, right, with Lance and you know, those type of guys. Trevor Lawrence, freakish athlete. Justin Fields, you have those. And then you have Mac Jones, who isn't great, but it's doable.
Not bad.
Like it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
I'm good with that. Like if he needs to take off for 8 yards, like he can, you
Yes.
know. And then you have Mills, which is just a little bit less than ideal. So that's another thing where I think might kind of drop him down to probably like second round, but he has a ton of reps. He has a ton of film. I think there are a lot of teams that are probably like what maybe he can bring at the very least as a good backup possible starter.